Thank you, Rai. It's a pleasure to be here. I am just going to share my screen with everyone. And yeah, today we're going to be talking about queerness as a superpower for unlocking your highest potential. And what that's really about, just like I was talking about, is the fact that being queer is a visionary type of experience. It is an experience where we have all had very, very different experience in our lives, finding ourselves as queer, finding ourselves as trans, understanding ourselves in the world, in our context, and how this has given us this incredible skill, this incredible gift. And I'm going to unpack that during this presentation, hopefully to empower you and to show you that, we know that we're powerful as a community and we know that we're powerful as individuals, but sometimes we have to be reminded exactly why that power is there, why we feel that. And if we don't feel that, that's okay too. And I want to start with a land acknowledgement. I'm in Southern Connecticut, and I respectfully acknowledge that I'm a guest on the land on which I live and work, which is the ancestral territory of the Naugatuck, Whippawag, and Quirpiri people who have stewarded this land throughout the generations. And that what we're experiencing as far as trans erasure, queer erasure of identities started with the genocide of indigenous peoples in the Americas, and that is inextricably linked, as is the struggle of all people who are suppressed. And when we're talking about queerness, why queerness? It's not something that kind of just came out of the blue. It's something that I actually, interestingly enough, came to this understanding of how powerful queerness is for changing our lives, and for me as a behavior change coach, as a health coach, as a trainer, helping people change their lifestyles. It actually came from me understanding and dissecting, okay, when I was shifting from having a business where I had a training studio with my ex-wife to my own business where for years I centered just on queer health and our nervous system health, and it's a huge part of everything I do now. It came from asking myself, the people that had really transformative experiences in my business, people who got promotions, who left difficult, abusive relationships, who started talking to themselves with more love and less hate, people who lost weight and transformed their bodies and gained muscle and became people who experienced the best, fitness and health in their life. It wasn't everyone I worked with. So what was the common denominator between all these people who are very, very different? And they were not queer people. They were straight. And it was that, well, I'm going to talk about it in just a minute. I'm going to leave you hanging for a second. So it's not that they were queer, right? But I love this quote by Ocean Vuong, who talks about, and I found this because I saw the video first, and I just love his writing. And I believe his pronouns are he, him, and not they, them, but I could be wrong. I don't remember. They said, queerness in a way saved my life. Often we see queerness as a deprivation, but when I look at my life, I saw that queerness demanded an alternative innovation from me. I had to make alternative routes. It made me curious. It made me ask, this is not enough for me because there's nothing here for me. And I don't know how many people that resonates with, but for me, when I heard, them speak about this and say this on a video, I think it was on Instagram, it resonated completely with me because for me, queerness saved my life growing up. It saved me from diet culture, which was very rampant in my immediate family. And I grew up in a much larger body, was very bullied for this fact, and, kind of grew up as an ugly girl. I don't identify as a girl. I'm non-binary, but that's how I was socialized and that's how I grew up. And it had a huge impact on me. And my queerness saved me that was removed from that whole situation and experience because that was not what I was about. I wasn't trying to get thin to get into some type of model of femininity, of, disappearing, of all of the things that we see that are placed upon femmes, right? And so for me, that resonated. That was like the first level. And then there were so many levels to which my queerness has saved me in my life. And so I want to ask you, what has your queerness given to you? What is your queerness given to you? You can just put it in the chat and Rye can jump in and, just share. It can be one word, it could be a phrase. But like, yeah, like let's think about it. Like what are some of the things that it's brought? For me, it's also brought trust issues. Right? So it's not.
So real. Books have said clarity, self-compassion, life, freedom.
Yes. Yes. Okay. It's different for all of us and it evolves all the time, right? You have a few more in there?
Yeah, creativity and loneliness, real.
Mm-hmm.
Queerness has given me the strength to break out of the boxes others tried to put me in. And queerness has nourished my soul when I can own being queer and trans.
Mm. Yeah.
My own lenses of other people around me.
Mm. Okay. So a lot. See, there's a lot of variety in our answers. There's so much diversity in our experiences. It's one of the major things that makes our community just so powerful and so beautiful. And I always like to express the fact whenever I'm doing any type of public speaking that wherever there are human beings, there are queer people. Wherever there are human beings, there are trans people. And that means that we have the most diverse community in the entire world because there's one of us everywhere. And when we talk about our queer origins, right? When we talk about actually thinking back to you finding yourself as queer in the world, right? Finding these kind of barriers or these limitations or these contexts and circumstances where you're like, whoa, what am I hitting up against here? Like, why does this not feel good? Why does everyone else seem like they know what they're doing and I don't know what I'm doing? Or I'm at this party or I'm at this, school event or I'm with, a bunch of people and I don't feel aligned at all. This doesn't feel useful to me, right? It's almost like everyone else is running is in the same movie and I'm not. No one gave me a script. That's how I always felt growing up. And so I really talk about our queerness as that's our intuition, right? That's our inner knowing. That's our heart speaking to us. If you're someone that believes in a soul, that's our soul's expression. Or we can use the term life force, the life force that exists in everything that is alive on this planet exists in us. And in that same way, we are written with nature's code. We're written with nature's code, which is why I chose these pictures because they were so beautiful with the interplay of plants and all these things. I love Canva Pro. I'm a little bit of a dork about that, but I have it for my business and I love that these images exist. They didn't used to exist, right? And when I'm talking about being written in nature's code, I'm talking about the fact that in a tiny acorn, an 80-foot tree is encoded in a tiny acorn, right? So the things that come up for us are so unique to us as individuals. And for queer people, we listen to that. That's why queer people look so different than everyone else, right? And I'm going to go more into that. But when this is happening, we're also being conditioned at the same time. So we're conditioned by these complex systems. We're conditioned by the culture in our family. We're conditioned by a religion or a faith community. If we grew up in that way, we're given that framework. Our geography, where are we born, right? That makes a huge difference. How we're racialized, how gender plays a role in our family, in our immediate society, our towns and our cities where we grew up, in our countries, our governments, right? We see that firsthand every day. And then that existential stress that comes with that too. But we are the listeners. I always talk about the fact that, being a non-binary person, being in the trans community, I talk about the fact that trans people are so destabilizing because we're the most honest people. We're so destabilizing to systems of control because we're the most honest people. We're honest in how we exist. We're honest in how we flower, right? I'm a purple flower. You're a red flower. Great. Okay. That's it. We're just flowers. We're all just flowers in the garden. It's another thing that I like to talk about. Bring it back to nature because then people who are not trans, or sometimes people are like, oh, I don't understand. And it's like, there's nothing to understand. This is how I exist, right? This is who I am. You don't go up to a tree and say, I don't understand. You're a tree. I don't understand. Like, and we start to give those examples, and then people are like, oh, sometimes they walk away. But, it's worth just kind of going back to this thing of like, hey, we are a part of this beautiful world that can also be very ugly, which we're seeing as well. But we are a part of this. But we are so conditioned by the things that humans make, really. And we get these inherited beliefs that turn into story scripts for how we live our life. And they are insidious. They kind of are, we could continue to pull them out, and they still seem to be there. Like if you've ever seen the show Stranger Things, right? Where they, they like pull out all of these like gross, roots that go into their, digging into the beings. I know that that's kind of a gross example, but I always remember, it always makes me think of that, right? The tentacles of our society and of our conditioning go really, really deep. And we may have woken up in our queerness, but we still have this conditioning in other areas of our lives. So thinking that we have to grind to be successful, hustle culture, capitalism, right? How productive you are equals your worth. I can't do that. This is just who I am. Having a fixed mindset when we know now the science of neuroplasticity that we can literally change everything about ourselves, including our personality, all the things that they thought were fixed and part of who we were as human beings, that's all been discounted. It's like, no, actually, all bets are off. There aren't any rules. Like, however you choose to live your life and the beliefs and the thoughts that you want to have in your head, you can direct all of that. But we have to get to a specific place in order to be able to do that, in order to embody that and live through it, in order to free ourselves, just in the same way that our queerness freed us from like really boring, straight, heteronormativity. And if there are any straight allies in here, I'm sorry. I'm being quote unquote good today. I'm eating a salad. I am a health coach. I work with people on all sorts of behaviors, and a lot of it is things like nutrition and eating and the moralization of food. I was bad this weekend. I ate a pizza. No, you weren't. You weren't bad for eating a pizza. You just ate a pizza. To be beautiful, masculine, femme, non binary, whatever it is, I have to look like X, Y, and Z. And we get caught up in that in our trans communities. It's a huge problem that I have with the Instagram influencers that are into fitness, is that I really see them aligning to these same body type image things that have to do with harm for a lot of people. I know that they did for me growing up, especially if your body doesn't fit into that space. And I'm someone with a chronic illness, so my body changes without me wanting it to, no matter what I'm doing. And so it's just that we have to just remember that this conditioning can stay. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to be binary in the way that you look and fitting into that binary as a trans person. But we have to also really understand the messaging, right? We have to really also understand that there's a ton of messaging into quote unquote what it looks like to be masculine. And if you can't achieve that, then you're less somehow. And I see this and I hear this, and I work with mostly queer and trans people. So we have to just be very mindful of that. So, why is queerness our superpower? Why is it something that I saw that a common denominator for people that had these huge transformations in their lives once they started to have this mindset and work with me and have these types of skills to change their behavior? It's awareness. They developed awareness. And I could say self-awareness, but actually it's just awareness. There's no boundaries to awareness. Once we tap into awareness, we start to tap into, yes, awareness of self, of what's coming up, just like we did when we found ourselves as queer. We were like, oh, what is that, right? What is this that's keep coming up for me? And we keep listening, and sometimes we push it away, but then we go back to it and go, this isn't going away. This is who I am, right? All in all of these different aspects. We've already woken up once inside the matrix. That's the way that I like to talk about it. And I think that kind of the more queer we are, the more we've woken up. And I'll get to that in a minute when I start talking about habits. But it's not everyone in our community. I'm using the word queer, but there's a lot of people in the LGBT community that would not use the word queer, that might say that they were gay or that they were lesbian or bisexual. And maybe they are TERFs, and maybe they are not cool with trans people. Those people have woken up and found themselves to be lesbian or gay. They've identified their sexuality, but everything about them they've tried to assimilate into society, right? So I'm not giving everybody this credit. That's why I'd say we've woken up once. And we can use this same lens. This is powerful. This is powerful. Like I said, it was all the straight people that I worked with, and some of them who just blew the doors off to their life and became these incredibly empowered people. And I was like, what was it? After so many years of working with very, very different types of people. And it was awareness. It was that they constantly, constantly doubled down on their awareness. They watched themselves without judgment. We're going to get into how to do this. But they were able to examine the habits, the beliefs, and the structures that no longer served them. Just like we did that in our queerness. Just like our queerness was that lens that we could do that, and we could divest from all of these things that didn't fit for us in society, because we knew that we existed in a completely different way. And we no longer trusted what was out there. We trusted what was inside of ourselves. And so that's what I'm asking you to do, to start to unlock your potential. Start to do this in other areas of your life. And we can start by asking ourselves, and you're going to get a summary of this as well. There's a PDF resource that goes along with this workshop. But what do I value? What are the strong things in my life that I can hold on to that kind of keep me afloat? Is it freedom? I just listed some examples here. Creativity, curiosity. I know that's a big one for me, staying really curious. For me, it's also freedom. From a very early age, I wanted to be free of all of it. I didn't want to be put in the clothes I was put into. I didn't want to be grouped with girls all the time when I knew that I was not a girl. I didn't fit in that way. So it made me very averse to any type of control. Compassion, having compassion. I knew I was suffering and I wanted people to help me. And I just had so much compassion for other people and animals, and because I was lonely, I was hurting, it was hard. So compassion is a huge one for me. Also, I'm Buddhist, and a lot of the work that I do is using the secular part of Buddhism, not the religious part, but just the mindset and the framework part. And so much of that is compassion. Another huge thing I saw with people that were able to change their lives was that they saw themselves and their habits and their conditioning. They had compassion for themselves, that they had learned these structures that made it hard to grow. You know, we live in our society right now in America and in the Western world, and it's not really based off of human needs. It's not based off of what we need in order to be okay. And hence we're not okay. Right? Authenticity, being who you are. That's a huge one for me. Just being who I am. I do workshops and with all sorts of businesses and all sorts of places, not just in the queer community. And I show up as a queer, non-binary person that's had top surgery, and if I wear fancy clothes, they're men's clothes and their suits and their button downs. And I give talks to other professionals, mostly people that I don't see as appearing queer in the audience. I know that they are. A lot of them come up to me afterwards, but that authenticity, it helps me in my life. This is who I am. This is how I'm showing up. I'm not going to change that for anybody. How do I define success? Think about your quality of life. How do you want to live? Do you want to just live to work? I used to work with people, and still do sometimes, that are very high achieving, have very demanding jobs. And I asked them, I said, are you exchanging your health for your career? And what's going to happen when you can no longer work, or when you get sick? What if you got sick? Do you think that they would hold your spot, or would they replace you? Where are you putting all your eggs? Is it just in that work basket? What is the work that you want to do? What about your spiritual life? What do you need in your material life? What communities do you want to be a part of? Do you want to even create? And then again, health. Health is there, which I talked about. And then what do I want for myself? that has nothing to do with productivity, that has nothing to do with work, maybe. Like, what do I want in my life? What are my personal goals? What speaks to me when I'm by myself, when I'm journaling, when I'm on a walk, or just thinking about things, thinking about life in general, the greater stuff, the big stuff. Self-expression. How do I express myself? What are the gifts that you feel like are inside of you? We've all been given gifts, and they're all different things because we're all different tiles of the mosaic. We're all different tiles of the mosaic. We all have something to bring to this bigger picture, and we all have the same power. We do. We all have the same power. We may not all realize it, but we do all have the same power inside of us. And I love this quote by Vietnamese Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh, which is, live your daily life in a way that you never lose yourself. That's not always easy. That's not always easy. So let's talk about how you might go about doing that. I talk about queering your habits. I talk about queering your habits and what that means. And straight people can do it too. But I love talking to my queer community about this because they have gone through the experience of finding themselves to be queer. I feel bad for straight people a lot of the time. I'm not going to lie. And again, if there's straight allies in here and listening, it's not a derogatory thing. It just means that we have had to go through this. We have had to explore ourselves at such a deep, deep level that there's so many things about the way that we live our lives and look and feel that are different. Not feel necessarily, but just are different because we have had to do this and we have become comfortable with being different, with all of the things that go along with that. And we have a lot of self-expression. There's a reason why we create popular culture. There's a reason why queer people create fashion and art and music and, are always at the top of their fields in these things, including sports. Self-expression. The first thing that we want to do to queer our habits and claim our power is to frame our daily habits as a form of self-liberation, for one, self-expression, and self-love. And if we think about our daily habits in that way, it becomes very free. It becomes so much more of, what do I want? What do I need? And to jump down to the third one, we stop shoulding all over ourselves. I should do this. I should do that. Okay. That really has to do with capitalism. It has to do with, I live in New England and was raised here, and that very much the Protestant work ethic of like, you should do this. That's what it means to be a good, person in society. That all comes from our colonial past, to be honest. And when we start to think of our daily habits as self-expression, then stuff really gets weird. Then things really become exciting and they become less anxiety riddled, less about perfection. And when those things come up, we can see it more easily. This actually, the way that we frame this, right? The way that you approach something has a huge impact on your experience of it. Let me say that again. The way that you approach something from your mind, your mindset, has a huge impact on your experience of that thing. I'll give you an example. This is something that my Buddhist teacher said on a retreat I was at not too long ago, and it cracked me up. And he's Tibetan. He's a Tibetan monk. And he said, think about the fact that you go to the gym and you drive and you're looking for a parking spot and you want to park as close as you can to the gym. You want to park as close as you can to the gym, but there's no parking spot that's close. So you have to walk. You have to park so far away and you have to walk to the gym. And while you're walking to the gym, you're so annoyed that you had to park so far away. Obviously, it's not anyone. It's an example, right? But it made me laugh that you're so annoyed. You're walking. You parked so far away, all this stuff. And he said, well, what do you do when you get in the gym? You go, you get changed, and then you get on the treadmill and start walking. And then you're so happy that you're walking on the treadmill because you're doing something for your health and you made it to the gym, right? You're walking in both of those examples, right? 100%. I see that floating, right? So when we change our mindset and when we can be aware of what our mindset is, because so much of this is default. So much of this is completely unconscious. This is a huge part of the work that I do with people because we are programmed to, once we're doing something repeatedly, a repeated behavior, our neurobiology, which is how our brain works, is really programmed to create that into, it moves to a different part of your brain. And it's less in your prefrontal cortex, which is your conscious thinking, strategizing brain. And it goes into other deeper parts of your brain where memory is stored and also where unconscious programming is stored. So there's a pattern that you've been doing, no matter what the pattern is, it's a completely neutral thing in your brain. Whatever that pattern is, you do it enough, you repeat it enough, you reward it enough, meaning that there's something positive that comes as a result of doing that. You're getting something from it. It goes into your autonomic nervous system, your unconscious nervous system, and you do it unconsciously. And then when we find ourselves doing it and we don't want to do it, we get so mad. We get so mad at ourselves. When actually, it's just what we've been practicing. So I talk about everything as practice. And one of the things that you want to practice, if we look at number 2, is to change your reference point from the inside out. We've already done that being queer. We've already done that with our queerness, right? So we can do that with other things as well. We can say, oh, do I really ascribe to that, what that person is saying? Let me explore that a little bit more. Oh, I'm feeling myself as anxious. Why? What's coming up for me right now? What am I doing? Right? Did something happen and then I'm responding in a really intense way? Is that how I feel right now? Or did that just kind of happen out of nowhere? And it might be an old pattern that you're in, right? So this is where we start to explore. And awareness is our guide. Awareness is our guide for this. So what I mean by that is that inner knowing, that voice, that quiet voice within, or that loud voice sometimes, is directing us in the way that will feel the best for us, that will feel the most aligned for us. And our inner knowing, and we'll talk about how that feels in a minute, but it's never a negative thing. It's never something that's shooting you. It's never something that's shaming you. It's never something that's you're never talking bad about yourself. It's all love. It's all love and compassion. Okay? It's all love and compassion. So if you have negative thoughts that are coming up, that is not your heart talking to you. That's not your inner wisdom or your life force energy that's in nature and in the earth. That's not that talking to you. That's your conditioning. That's your shame language. That's your brain. It's not your heart. We want to practice lining up our actions with our values. So once you know what your values are, like I just talked about, for instance, authenticity, that means that if someone hires me or wants me to come to work for them and they want to change what I'm saying, or they want to change something about me or change how I'm promoted or something like that, I say, sorry, that doesn't align with my values. And I don't take that job. Right? I used to write I literally just wrote my last article for a magazine in Connecticut here, the only queer magazine. And when I started writing for them, they only had white people in the magazine and they didn't have any trans people. It's like a glossy magazine that's like promoted for professionals. And I said, I need to see more diverse pictures accompanying my articles and throughout the magazine. And I don't see any trans people, and I'm trans. So if you want me to keep writing for you, that's got to change. And my editor wrote me this long thing after I said that, because I said that to the publisher, and who was straight. And the publisher said, absolutely, we totally get it. And my editor said, thank you for saying that. And I wanted to be like, why didn't you say it? But I didn't. I didn't. I just was like, yeah, well, someone's got to say it. I didn't say, why didn't you? Listen to your inner knowing. Listen to your inner knowing. And also, if I were in my 20s, I started writing for them like 3 years ago. If I were in my 20s, I wouldn't have been able to say that, I don't think. But I think that that's what's different now about people in their 20s a little bit more. So if you find, oh, I don't know if I could say that, or you find yourself in situations where you can't say things, it's okay. You kind of have to go through a couple of those to go, actually, that doesn't feel right. I'm not going to do that again. So have some compassion with yourself. We're not always going to be doing the things that feel good. the part of this is what I'm just talking about, knowing your heart and your inner knowing, is that you kind of have to know what's not aligned to know what's aligned. So we humans learn by trial and error. So we can't be mad about that. We can't be mad about that. We can own it and we can say, I made a mistake to ourselves and to other people, but we can't be mad at ourselves for it because that's how we learn. It's only something that is a negative thing if it's a missed opportunity to learn and we get stuck in it. And then as soon as we're not stuck in it, and as soon as we bring awareness to the fact that we are, and we go, oh, and we can make that right for ourselves or for other people, then immediately it turns into a learning experience. And so you're good. So there's never a wrong answer. You can always come back to it. You can always come back around. Okay. And we do that through compassion, through awareness and compassion. Okay. Find the answers to your own questions. That's how we build self-trust. You might be saying to yourself, oh, yeah, but maybe you seem so sure, or I wasn't always at all, not at all. Getting sober helped. I'm sober. And also just repeatedly doing this process of awareness of going, okay, this doesn't feel good, or I'm in a relationship, or I'm in a housing situation, or I'm in a job that I don't want to be in. That this, how to, okay, I know that now. Good. That's good information. That's good data. What would be the next smallest step to make me move in the direction where I feel like I want to go? And then pay attention to what comes up. And it might not be what you think it is, and it might not look the way you think it's going to look. But you will find yourself, if you keep listening, to being in greater alignment. And we can talk about that right now. Like, think about a time when you felt like you were in alignment, like you felt like this was a sweet spot, like this was right. This feels good. It's a good fit. Sometimes I hear people say, what did it feel like? And what were you doing? Okay. Like these, again, this is going to be in the resource that you get, but like we want to start with what works for us, what we know. Okay. I know that being around my friend feels really good. Why? They're very validating. They have a lot of compassion for me. They listen to me. We have a good communication style. We go back and forth. I can trust them. Okay, there's some things that right there, qualities that you might be looking for in a friend or a partner. Trust, reciprocity, compassion, right? You know you can count on them. Being in alignment is full of energy. When something feels good, your body gets energized. I don't know if you've noticed that, but we can start noticing it anytime. So if you didn't and you feel really disconnected from your body, that's totally okay. And it could also start with our breathing. You might just notice, oh, I'm starting to breathe a little bit like, I don't know, like I'm starting to get excited. Our alignment, it feels like it's right, like it feels like it's true. And there's ease and peacefulness attached to it. It's not chaotic. Chaotic is when we're not in alignment, when we feel like we have frenetic or manic energy. That's when we're not, that's when we're out of alignment and we're having this like visceral response to it. When we're in alignment and we're around the right people, it's easy and it's peaceful. So, talking about how we practice this, everything is practice. We're never playing a game, I like to say. Like I have a sports background, right? Everything is practice because we get so stuck on being perfect. How do we practice this? Well, guess what? There's no game. Life is all just practice. There's no destination. It's all the journey. We know what the destination is. No one's going to make it out of here alive. That's the nature of our world. And we forget that or we suppress it and it drives us crazy and it makes us very fearful. But it's okay. We're doing the right thing. We're on the journey, this human journey. So it's a little face that was like, oh, like I said, I'm a Buddhist, like awareness practice. Observe without judgment, no matter what comes up. And if you practice this and you just see the thoughts as they come up and the stories as they come up, but your mind is just going to go, 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 go. And we can actually detach from it and get into a place of observation. And that's our awareness. And the more we can do it, the more we don't get sucked into all of these thoughts that we have, that we then start going down the rabbit hole, that we then start having more thoughts about and more feelings about. And meanwhile, you're sitting somewhere, maybe even reading a book, and have you ever done this? You've read the same paragraph like 5 times, and you're like, or you've read 5 pages and you're like, I don't even know what I was just reading because I was just thinking about this conversation I had earlier. Okay. So practicing, and guess what? That moment where you wake up and you go, oh, I've been reading for these 5 pages. I don't even know what I read. That's awareness. You did it. That's what it is. Same thing with meditation. That's what meditation is. Meditation isn't that you never get lost. It's that you come back. That's the practice, is that you come back. Self-compassion. Even the intention to want to be free from confusion, obstacles, difficulty in life is self-compassion. You might think that you don't have very much of it, but you have that, I bet. I bet you don't want to suffer. I bet you don't want to be confused or deal with difficulty or see suffering in the world. I know you don't. I know you don't. That's compassion. That's self-compassion. I don't want to do this anymore. This is hard. That's self-compassion. Okay? And we can build on that. We can honor that. And we can do that by listening to that. That's how we honor it. That's how we build on it. And that's how it grows. And we get into more and more positive situations in our life that where our gifts can be used, where we can be at ease, where we can be at peace, where we can make more changes for ourselves that are positive. It just goes and goes and goes after that. Unlearning. This is a big one. This is a big one. Remember, we've already woken up being queer people, but we need to unlearn. We need to use that lens and apply it, that lens of awareness, and apply it to the stories that come up that we tell ourselves about ourselves. And we get to then make a decision. Once we see it, we can make a decision. If we don't see it, we can't make a decision. It's like maybe if one of your friends is dating someone that you think is bad news and they just can't see it, you know, and you're like, oh, this person is so lame. How come they can't see it? They can't see it yet, but you can see it. They're too close, but you have awareness, right? You have an objective. You're witnessing from an objective standpoint. You're not just down the rabbit hole like that person is. Okay. So once we observe, once we have self-compassion, once we see it, we get to make a decision for ourselves, and we get to replace our old stories with aligned action. What would be a better decision here? What do I actually want? What do I actually want? Right? And when we talk about creating our future, I call it Queer Health Future Vision, because that's, for me, it's about health. For me, all of this makes you healthier. When you choose yourself, you make healthier choices. You do, because there's more self-love. There's more self-compassion. There's more self-worth. There's more self-trust. You're not running away from yourself anymore. Now you're starting to meet yourself again. You did it when you were queer, and you were like, I'm queer. And then you're like, oh no, I'm unworthy. And you ran away. Because that's what we all do. Because that's what we've been conditioned to do in our society as well. It's a lot easier to sell to people that think that they are not worthy, that they have low self-esteem, that there's something wrong with them and that they need to be fixed. Guess what? That's perfect for a capitalist society. I can tell you all these things and tell you that's going to take all that away. Okay? It's not by accident. And the energy of curiosity, when we're talking about what we're going towards, what we want for ourselves in our life, the energy of curiosity, of desire, I want this thing for me, right? Expansion. I call myself a cosmic queer at this point in my life. I am a cosmic queer. That's expansive to me. I love that phrase. It makes me laugh every time I say it, right? It made somebody else laugh too. That energy is very different than avoidance and fear. Right? That I can only be like this, right? I feel bad for those assimilationist gays and lesbians. I'm gay, but that's the only different thing about me. And it's like, really? Is it? Okay, and maybe it is. Lots of people live like that, and that's okay. That's their deal. But that's from avoidance and fear. Fear that they can't deal with anything else that's happening. Or if we're running from something that we think that is going to show us as not being good at our job, as opposed to running towards something that's a creative expression that might totally change something about my job in a really positive way. But I'm really afraid that if I share that I'm going to get fired or something bad is going to happen or it's not going to be good enough. I won't get that promotion. That's very different energy. So we want to pay attention to that too. Are we going towards something and allowing that draw, that alignment to pull us towards something? For instance, if I think about health and fitness goals that people come to me with, right? I don't want to be sick versus I want to be healthy. That's a completely different mindset. That's a completely different mindset. Your experience is going to be different as a result of your mindset. And we control our mindset. Therefore, we control our experience. So, what experiences in your body and life do you want to have? What experiences in your body and your life do you want to have? That's what I center all of the work I do with people on. Is that what are the experiences that you want to have and what are the experiences that you no longer want to have? Oftentimes I have people tell me, I no longer want to hate myself. I no longer want to be afraid of going to the doctor's office. You know? So all of these things that start to play on us in our lives and keep us restrained, even though we're queer and we have this great lens and we have all of this awareness, in other places we're stuck and we're constrained by ourselves because we've internalized this conditioning. And so we can be free from it. We can work on it. And a really fun aspect of making ourselves more expansive and more free and more at peace is that our relationships and our communities change. Things just change around us. So as you shift, your communities change. New habits bring new experiences and new people. You're doing new things, so there's new people around you. And connection and transformation go hand in hand. And we know that if we think about the first times that maybe we went to, a queer community center or a queer community online or, all of those things, and we met all of these different people, we didn't necessarily align with anybody, but we found ourselves there. We found our people. We found our community that we could start to explore. We can do this in every single part of our life. And it's just a beautiful way to live. And we have this very hard won lens of awareness. And it is absolutely a priceless gift. Yes, like I said in the beginning, mine came with trust issues and strained relationships and losing family and losing friends only to gain some of them back, right? Like, yes, there's stuff around it. This is not just like, sparkles flying out of your butt and you're like, yay, that's not that. Yes, of course it came with hard things. Usually things that are really transformative also have an aspect of them that are difficult, but it's not, we can't get lost in the difficulty because we're going to miss the gift. It's like in superhero movies. I was just writing about this today, thinking about queerness as a superpower. Like in superhero movies, sometimes they seem like horror movies, especially at the beginning when the heroine, when the superhero doesn't know their powers yet, and they start to experience really difficult stuff, trauma, disconnection, loss, grief, total confusion. And then they find that they are a superhero. Then they find that they're a superhero, and all of that pain becomes completely transformative There's the awareness. They become aware of their own power, and all of that pain becomes the thing that gives them the power to help other people. Sounds a lot like a human experience to me. Doesn't really sound like something that happens just in comic books. So I want to leave you with that today, that we have been given such a beautiful gift and that we can move forward with it, that we don't have to be afraid to move forward within ourselves and without ourselves as well in order to change our lives. So you have everything you need right now. Like that little acorn has that 80-foot oak tree in it. You have everything that you need to direct your life, and all the information is there. You just have to listen. Okay? So thank you so much for spending your time with me. My business is Wisdom Body Health. I'm on Instagram. I just created a Substack, and that's my website. And please feel free as well to email me. I think we're going to still do some Q&A right now, but yeah, I would love to connect. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Megan. As always, so beautiful, so much wisdom, so much knowledge. Yeah. And yes, Erin, queerness is my superpower. The question came in. Do you have any go-to mantras, especially to move past stuckness?
Mm. Well, research shows, and this is something I use with my clients too, that the mantras that we create for ourselves are the ones that are the most powerful because they're the ones that resonate with us, like putting words together or phrases. So I have a couple things. I have little cards on my desk to remind myself. So this one says, "My heart holds great wisdom and love," and I use it to connect and heal. So when I start to get nervous about speaking or giving workshops or doing whatever, I remember that this is my heart centered work. And another one I have is clarity comes from action. So when I just started writing a Substack and sometimes I get a little bit nervous about putting my work out there. And so I remember that again, I go through things of, is it good enough? That type of stuff. Will anyone like it? Clarity comes from action. I'm going to feel good and I'm going to know what's useful to people once I start putting stuff out there and it's not such a big deal. So, and one more that I actually just picked up yesterday and put on my wall. I can do it. I deserve it. I will get it. There you go.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for the question.
Yeah, definitely.
Does anyone have any other ones?
You're also free to ask any questions that you have about anything like stress, nutrition, sleep. These are things that I help people with. So if you have something that you're struggling with or working on, let me know.
Someone has, this is maybe a big question. Yes, please ask, please ask.
Yeah. And Stephanie said I could use more sleep. Oh, Han's in there. Okay. How do you build a workout routine without pressure of society norms? Great question. Yep. Like weight and eating. So the way that I would frame it, and I do this for myself, this is my work with my clients too, is what do you want to get out of it? Like, what do you want to see? What do are you trying to improve fitness? Like, are you doing like an event, like a walk or a run or a bike ride? Or do you want to hike and keep up with your friends hiking? Like, there's so many things that people want. Is it weight loss? Is it weight gain? Depending on what you want. So that's how I would structure a workout routine and nutrition is it really has to do with like what you want your outcomes to be. talking about marriage for the next one. You're welcome, hon. Is it possible for a person to live by themselves forever and stay happy? It depends. Without marriage, mainly, it depends because I've traveled through Asia and I've studied Buddhism for the last 25 years. And so I actually have friends who are monastics, who are monks and nuns, and they're celibate and they're not getting married and they feel super devoted to what they're doing. So I think it really has to do with your frame of reference of what works for you. You know, I'm single, I'm divorced. I actually really like, I've been single for on and off for 2.5 years. I really like a lot of alone time. None of my friends live like that. So, I mean, you know, it really depends. I don't know that I'll ever get married again. I do want to have a partner. I don't think that I will necessarily be married again because I've already been married. I have a certain experience that could change in the future. So it's a personal question. I like that question, but it's also a personal answer. It really has to do with what is fulfilling for you. And only you get to decide that. Yeah, you got it.
Great answer. Someone said, I'm trying to work on feeling safe in my body while in public. I've been very, very in my head with safety concerns as a trans lesbian. So real. Try to
Yeah.
be aware of my surroundings, but I feel so hyper vigilant, intense. It's hard to be present. Any tips would be so appreciated.
Yeah. Thank you, Hazel. I understand. I feel like that too sometimes for sure. I would practice feeling safe in your body when you're not in public. So, working on things like breath work or meditation or like gentle yoga, anything where there's kind of where you're quote unquote embodied, where you're part of the experience is sensing into your experience in your body. And then moving outside into the public, I would be I would find a space. I would find a space where I could be with a friend or two who I felt safe with, and then I would practice the same practice that I did in at home, sensing into my body and feeling what was coming up and noticing without judgment and practicing that kind of detachment where you get into like the observer or the witness of your experience and there's no judgment. You as things come up and even as you kind of grab things, maybe as you grab anxiousness or you grab some of these sensations, you can remember to let them go and try and focus on just the watching. You don't have to do anything. It's just the awareness. So in that way, it turns the hypervigilance around so that you're not hypervigilant outside of you. You're being consciously aware inside of you, and that will lessen the experience of feeling like anxiety. And that will bring your point of reference inside as opposed to your reference being outside in. We want to practice the inside out and finding a safe place and or preferably with people who you feel safe with that you can do that. Yeah, but definitely practicing at home first, practicing those skills at home first and then moving to a place. It's going to be hard to practice that when you are in hypervigilance. You're basically not going to be able to. So don't be hard on yourself if it's hard. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I got all the questions coming in now.
Yeah,
Um,
good.
let's see. How do you tackle anti-fat bias with self-image in the medical system? Weight is always the first topic with any new medical practice, even if most of my levels are fine. I'm also on T for 5 months, but was already considered too heavy beforehand, so any weight gain is immediately flagged, even if a small amount. It's frustrating, often assumed to have blood sugar or lipid issues. Focus on building strength and supporting my body versus tying value to a number on the scale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, fat bias in the medical system is so messed up. It's so messed up. And I have a personal case where, I mean, I experienced stuff when I was younger in my life for sure. Like I've said, I've lived in all different sized bodies, and both of my siblings live in bigger bodies. And my sister had a medical misdiagnosis for 4 years because of fat bias. And they were telling her that it was in her head. And she had a condition and she had to have surgery. And so I have compassion for you, and I'm really sorry that you're experiencing it because it's bullshit. It's total bullshit. And you're right. There's so many people that there aren't any issues with their blood work. There isn't anything that comes up, and it's really discriminatory. And it's something where, again, referencing from the inside out, I would move and explore finding different doctors in your network to work with, and don't take it. If you have that experience with a doctor, explore other doctors. Don't take it. Again, my sister had to move to a couple different doctors over the course of a few years before she found someone that literally diagnosed her in 15 minutes, and she had been misdiagnosed for 4 years. And I have a chronic illness, and I changed and I went to that doctor because they were a gastrointestinal doctor, a GI doctor. And so that's what I would say. I would advocate for yourself. But if someone makes you feel uncomfortable and you feel like they're not listening to you or they're constantly coming back to that, I would move on. Just move on. There's so many different doctors now with different levels of education that if that person is expressing that, then that might not be, you don't owe them anything, and you don't have to educate them. I'm over all that. I'm over educating people. I'm just like, I'm just like, if you don't know and I'm paying you and I'm showing you my body and I'm giving you this, I'm trying to feel safe with you and you're not able to meet me with where you're at, I don't owe you shit. And I move on. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, I love that energy. Just taking no bullshit.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Sweet. Well, thank you so much for staying for a little bit and answering these questions. Thank you, everybody here, for asking the questions and being present.